Hi, and welcome to this very special edition of Igniting the Space Down Under. Almost forgot what it was for a second there. Where I'll be hoping to live stream the launch of Starship, the IFT4 mission. I'm Josh Keegan. I am the host of the Space Down Under, and I'll be hosting this watch party. So if you want to come along and join in the chat, please feel free to do so. Come along and say hi. Remember, guys, we are all space fam. Come along and say g'day. Remember to respect each other. Do all that sort of good stuff. And come along to see this live stream. So just to let you guys know, there is no script for any of this. There is nothing happening in the background. I don't have anything. I have some stuff prepared, but yeah, this was a very, very last minute decision. I was only asked by... I was speaking at the Aerospace Camp in West Wyalong. That was in regional New South Wales here in Australia, and I was invited there by One Giant Leap Australia Foundation. As part of that, as I was talking about my experiences with the high impulse launch, I was talking to a whole bunch of very interested students who were very keen to hear about exactly how my experiences about the high impulse launch. And then one of the questions they asked towards the end was, would you come along and would you actually live stream the Starship launch, IFT4? And I said, yeah, I don't know, it's a little bit too soon to notice, all that sort of stuff. No, anyway, I'm here. Long story short, I'm here. I'm here for the kids of West Wyalong in New South Wales. I'm here for One Giant Leap Australia Foundation once more. No, they're not sponsoring me at all, but I just thought I'd give them a shout out because they're the ones who are primarily to blame for all of this. So hopefully this will all work. This will all go really according to plan, even though I have limited plans. So yeah, just keep that all in mind as we go through all of this. So I've got around about 10 minutes before the live stream actually starts. It's up here in this window, and that will happen very, very soon, about 10 minutes or so. So I've got 10 minutes worth of rambling to talk to all of you and welcome you along to this very special and individual live stream event for Igniting the Space Down Under, covering the launch of Starship. All right, so look, just one of those things. As always, there is a question and answer session. This is a chat, so yeah, yes, you can go and have a look at the test. Dean Turnan has said that it's great to be here. Welcome, Dean. I believe you're the only one who's having a look at the moment. So welcome, mate. Pleased to have you here, and pleased, obviously, to for everybody down the other end of that side there. So, yeah, just to give you an idea. There is also, if you want to come along and support me as well, just keep in mind that I also have a shop, which is shop.thespacedownunder.com or spacedownunder.shop. Anyway, I can't remember. There is an address there, and it is off the website, so thespacedownunder.com. We can go along and you can buy yourself your own Aussie Naut top like this one. This one I've got here, which is an Aussie Naut hoodie. So there you go. I quite like the Aussie Naut hoodie because it's cold here in Queensland at the moment, and by cold I mean it's probably 15 degrees. I know, not compared to northern winters, I get it. But yes, when you live in the subtropics here in Queensland, in Brisbane, Queensland, then yes, anything below 20 it's cold. Let's face it, it's really, really cold. But yes, look, you can get to yourself an Aussie Naut hoodie. You can also get things like this cool Resat mug as well, which was from the very first Australian launch that happened in 1967. Yes, I do actually have permission to replicate that, and it's on a mug. You can own one of those today if you want to go along, which is shop. Hang on, let me just check the web address here. I can't even remember. Oh my. It has been a while. As you can tell from the result of the high impulse launch, I have actually lost parts of my brain, I think. So anyway, all right, shopthespacedownunder.com. Yeah, yes, believe it or not, I just looked it up. All right. So welcome along to this. Go along and support me on Patreon as well. So it's patreon.com/the Space Down Under if you want to go and support me there. Some of the Patreon supporters will be very, very surprised that I'm actually live streaming right now because I let nobody know. Nobody, apart from a bunch of kids in West Wyalong in regional New South Wales. So yeah, if you want to look that one up, please feel free to do so. Again, all the great work that's being done by One Giant Leap Australia Foundation, and those guys will, and they do quite a significant amount of work in terms of getting kids interested and excited about the Australian and international space industries. Now, what I'm doing in the background here is, if you can see my eyes wandering, I'm just keeping an eye on where the launch should come across. So if it comes down to some point where I put up a screen that says technical issues. The screen I've got open at the moment, which is displaying this one here, which is displaying the live stream of the launch, may or may not work, just simply because SpaceX has decided to exclusively stream on X or Twitter. So yes, I might need to go along and make some really, really quick adjustments so I can still continue to bring that to you guys live. All right, so I just thought I'd go over a little bit. This is the fourth launch of the Starship. So this is the proving launch. They went through IFT1 and IFT2 already, and IFT3 was the most spectacular. So I'll go over some of the details of that, and we'll just have a little bit more look in detail into the IFT3 and exactly what happened there.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So as you saw there, the IFT3 was very, very successful. All of it was pretty much nominal up until certain points where the two failures that actually happened was the booster failed to return and come back and splash down, and the Starship itself actually started to spin out of orbit. So despite those two of those failures, and I'll get to that footage in a second, they did actually do a few qualification things as well. Was they actually opened a space door in the side of the vehicle, meaning that it's possibly for the deployment of the version 2 of Starlink, which they're hoping that the Starship they'll be actually able to deploy them from the Starship. So as you can imagine, that's 100 tons to orbit, and they were looking to deploy that out of that side door. That was a test. The booster didn't land. And that's unfortunate. So it may have spun out of control. It may have actually, SpaceX actually said that there was a leaky valve. The clog in the valve, and actually prevented the fuel flowing through to the engines to actually give a really good burn for the booster. Same thing with the Starship. There was a couple of leaky valves and it didn't actually quite work in terms of that. So yeah, look, I'll just go into what actually happens next. So we'll have a bit of a look at the footage of this next part here. As you can see, this is the door that opened during the middle of the flight. So they were testing this technology. As you can see, the door opened and it appears to have gassed out. So any oxygen or anything or breathable air that was in the vehicle at that time went out through that door.
Faster than we did before. It's going to be critical to eventually bringing Starship back from space for rapid
coming
reuse.
back from space.
So I mentioned those flaps. That's one of the things that enables Starship to help control itself itself and survive the heat of reentry, which, like we said before, we're expecting that reentry to occur around T plus 49 minutes. So we're getting pretty close here.
And what you're seeing here, it looks like the vehicle is sort of moving back and forth. Part of what you're also seeing is one of the cameras, this onboard view that we have, is on the end of a flap. Starship has front flaps and rear flaps in the vehicle. So we've got 4 of those. And, oh man, we can see the heating on those flaps as we're starting to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This is where the Earth's atmosphere is doing the work to slow us down.
Now, like we said, this plasma field wow, what a view. We hope to maintain these views throughout. Starship is so big that we're hoping that the plasma field doesn't entirely blanket the entire vehicle. Right now, it is not. The Starlinks are still...
brought to you by Starlink.
Yeah, the Starlinks are still communicating and still capturing the data and the video that we see here. I mean, Shiva, this is just absolutely incredible views. We've never seen anything like this before. This is the biggest flying object ever in space.
Absolutely, Kate. And it's important to note, with the ascent burn that we did was to get us to orbital velocities, even though we were on a nearly orbital trajectory. So the heating and the loads that Starship is going through right now are what it would be getting if it were recovering from an orbital mission. And just the fact that we have views through entry, this is incredible.
Yeah. Again, this is the furthest and fastest that Starship has ever flown. And you can definitely tell by the crowd here in Hawthorne.
The heat shield tiles doing their work. We talked about it earlier. Up to 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit that those heat shield tiles are dissipating as we are re-entering.
Yeah, now this was one of the critical, or rather the key mission objectives that we were hoping to hit today. We have never, like I said before, this is the fastest and furthest that Starship has ever flown. So this is the first time that we're getting to collect this re-entry data and understand how these 18,000 hexagonal heat shield tiles are working together to protect the belly of Starship as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. Once again, the atmosphere is doing us a big favor here by...
80 kilometers altitude.
The atmosphere is actually doing us a huge favor here by acting as a braking system for Starship as it re-enters the atmosphere.
And that's part of the reason why the flaps are so important. We're using the body of Starship and the drag from the atmosphere to slow us down from orbital speed, but you want the vehicle to remain stable. You want those heat shield tiles pointed down so they can absorb the heat of the Earth's atmosphere. And so that's the...
So that was very, very exciting IFT3. What happened with that? There was a blockage in the valve that actually prevented the roll control, which meant that Starship wasn't able to come in belly first and use those heat tiles. So as you could see, it was spinning out of control. And so what happened was that did actually end the vehicle not long thereafter. The footage cut. Because I watched live, all the footage cut, everything cut off, and then basically what had happened was they confirmed that they had indeed lost the vehicle. Now, despite the fact that this was more or less a failure. Think about this for just a second. In terms of failures, it was only because Starship itself, it was a failure just because in terms of reusability, more than anything else. Remember that Starship has been designed from the ground up. It's made out of stainless steel, and it's a special cold-rolled stainless steel, similar to what they use in the Cybertruck. And it's the whole idea of this stainless steel body and the heat shield tiles and everything else is to make sure that it is 100% reusable. So they can reuse Starship, they can reuse the first stage boost, super heavy booster. They can do all that, and then they can fuel it up and they can send it again. So even though the reusability was a failure, the whole thing was a complete and total and utter success. And by that, I mean, let's think about how you used to traditionally launch rockets. So when you would launch a rocket, you would actually point it up. You would point one end of space, point the flames towards the ground, and away you go. So to get your payload to orbit, you'd throw away the first stage, and that would land somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. You would throw away a second stage, if there was a second stage, and that may remain in orbit before tumbling back to Earth. The third stage would boost you to either the International Space Station, or it could take you to lunar orbit. But essentially, all three stages were wasted. So when you think about this for just a second, like I did, not long after the IFT3, because I watched IFT1 and IFT2, IFT3 was the key. So when you think about this, in terms of old rocketry, if you were to throw away the booster, which they can do, you throw away Starship, which they can also do. You put a couple of cargo doors or put some really good cargo on that. SpaceX now has the ability, as of the previous launch, back in, I think it was March, to actually put 100 tons to low Earth orbit. Think about that. I'll repeat that again. 100 tons to low Earth orbit. That is extraordinary. The most that most rockets can do, the maximum capacity, I believe, is around about up to 60 tons, so nowhere near. This is an extra 40 tons. And this is 60 tons is a really, really big rocket that actually has strap-on boosters, all that sort of stuff that go with it. And so therefore, it takes a lot more rocket to launch that into space. This is a bigger rocket. It's 9 meters in diameter. It's the booster is something like 130 meters. The whole thing is like 230 meters, 250 meters tall, or 36 stories tall. It's taller than the Saturn V. It is huge. It runs on a combination of methane and oxygen. They typically call it methalox. So yeah, this is, and methalox is and methane is more or less a liquid natural gas, more or less. But they're able to use commonly available materials that are available right now to launch something to low Earth orbit right now. 100 tons right now. That's it. So already from IFT3 to today, IFT4, SpaceX has already made history by being able to launch that level of capacity to low Earth orbit, that level of volume to low Earth orbit. And we're not even talking about getting it to the moon or to Mars or to anywhere else, just to low Earth orbit. We're talking orders of magnitude higher than anything that's ever been launched by the space shuttle, by Russia, by China, by anybody. This is a massive, 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 massive beast. And just to let you guys know, so in the background here, I've been checking the websites, and the reason for the ramble, it was supposed to be starting 8 minutes ago. I've refreshed everything, and it seems like the time has changed, and it'll be 10:10 local time here in Australia. I'm not sure what that is, UTC, so apologise. It's at least another 20 minutes away. So yeah, there's 20 minutes of airtime that I need to go through and check and make sure everything is working, and make sure everything is up to speed. So yes, guys, if you have any questions, please ask some questions if you wish to ask some questions. I'm proud of myself that I am a massive rocket nerd, bigger than anyone else that I've ever met. I do know quite a lot, not as big as the experts, of course. And if you want more of a live stream view where you actually get to see the Starship sitting on the pad, you can go to NASA Spaceflight, Everyday Astronaut, Overlook Horizon, any one of those guys. I'm not sure if Scott Manley is doing it, but any one of those guys, please go and check out them, and I'll give you a live stream of all the information in terms of of Starship sitting on the pad, all that sort of stuff. Because otherwise, you're just going to get me with static images and videos from last time, all that sort of stuff. So if you need to go, please go. Please go and enjoy those experiences, because those guys have some really, really good equipment that's right close to the rocket. They've spent quite a lot of money doing that. So I'm quite happy to promote those guys if you don't want to listen to an Australian space nerd banging on to you about what it means for Starship. So in terms of Starship, just coming back to Starship for just a second. This is going to be a game changer, and it already is a game changer. So we're talking about 100 tons to low Earth orbit. So that puts up massive amounts of payload that's never been thought of before. With that, what does this mean to the rest of the industry? And that's the bit I want to know is this going to decimate the rest of the industry and everything will be dominated by SpaceX? This is a question for you guys. Rather than me just sitting here listening to me ramble, please, do you think this will actually decimate the industry? This is a question for you. I think it might. I'm not sure. Do I think that that this will delay the Artemis missions? I'm not sure. NASA is looking to launch the second Artemis mission sooner rather than later. I've seen a lot of things that indicate that it might happen at the end of this year. That will be a crewed mission. I believe that's going around the moon and coming back. This one, the Artemis 3 mission, which the Starship is supposed to be for, will be happening possibly next year, but there's a lot of qualifications that SpaceX needs to get through to meet that Artemis 3 or Artemis 4 mission of going around the moon or landing on the moon. So it's still quite a way away at the moment. So, all right. Just to let everybody know, and I'll just show you some more images. So what they're trying to achieve in terms of this IFT4 is they're trying to get to, basically it's a demonstration mission once again, and this is what it looks like at the moment. They're trying to launch and get a boost back. So the Super Heavy booster, we're looking to get a boost back of that and land it in the Pacific Ocean, safely away from everybody. They would have issued a NOTAM, which is Notice to Airmen, to let them know that this will be happening and it's launching. Just by the way, to let all you guys know, there is a 2-hour window for this that SpaceX can take advantage of that opened up. Where are we? 22 minutes ago, and can continue on until that stage. Can continue on until the 2 hours is up. So they have permission from the FAA to actually do this, and there's a Notice to Airmen out at the moment that gives them permission to actually launch. So yes, the Super Heavy booster, they're looking to launch it and bring it back from orbit into. It's not actually orbit; it goes up into space, and they're looking to bring it back once it's delivered Starship to more of an orbital plane. So once Starship is up there, what Starship is looking to do is it's looking to do a couple of different things. I'm not sure if it's going to do the fuel transfer between the tanks or not, but what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to do a massive belly flop, which you saw spiraling out of control. Hopefully we'll get some really, really cool images of it coming back in through the atmosphere using Starlink. Again, another SpaceX product. And what will happen is the Starship will then belly flop through the atmosphere, and what's happened is it will actually turn tail, point that towards the ocean, and brake before actually doing a belly flop into the actual ocean. Will cut and then belly flop into the ocean. So that's where I'm just not sure about whether or not it'll actually do any braking or it'll just completely belly flop into the ocean and the whole thing will be destroyed. But it's certainly going to make for there'll be very, very thrilling times, and it'll be guaranteed. So look, there's some couple of images here that I'd like you guys to see, which is the IFT3. This was courtesy of SpaceX. They're from their tower, which is the Mechazilla, has a Mechazilla arms on it that actually props up the Starship. They were all retracted at that particular point in time. And this is just before it actually took off and went up for the very successful IFT3. So, and then there's this one here, which also courtesy of SpaceX as well. So all credit to them. This is at Starbase in Boca Chica in Texas. I apologize again if I've said that wrong. Worst pronunciator in the world, seriously. Yes, and this is the Starship that has actually been mounted to the booster and is ready for the IFT4. Just keep in mind that even though these images are there and they it looks like that SpaceX only has 1 or 2 rockets, you just got to remember in the background to all of this, SpaceX actually has another 3 or 4 boosters under construction or constructed, and then Super Heavy boosters and Starships constructed, at least 3 or 4, and another 2 or 3 under construction right now that is ready to go after this. So Elon and SpaceX have decided that in Boca Chica in Texas, they've got a rocket factory down there. They've got Starbase, which they call it. There's a whole industrial section where they're manufacturing and rolling out new sections of the Super Heavy booster all the time. Raptor engines are being tested in other parts of Texas, and they're being put on a test stand, and they're being tested all the time. So there's vacuum optimized, and then there's which are the larger ones and the smaller ones, which are 33 engines on the back of the Super Heavy booster, which launch it to orbit. The second thing to note as well is that, hang on just a second. Oh, got a question. No, this is Lachlan from Aerospace. Hey, Lachlan. Sorry, I interrupt my own rant to say g'day to someone. G'day, Lachlan. How's it going? Welcome to my specific rant. Just remember, thanks very much for coming along to this as well. Thanks very much for listening to me talk about the high impulse launch that I was able to share with you at the Aerospace Camp. There were some really interesting questions from that, mate, so I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate you being here. It is a school night, mate, so don't stay up too late. I'm kidding. If your parents are cool with you watching me, this Aussie bang on, then that's okay. Just to let you know as well, again, guys, if you want to see some sweet images and what's happening and all that cool stuff, please go along and watch NASA Spaceflight, Everyday Astronaut, all those guys. Overlook Horizon, I believe, is there as well as doing a retransmission. Yeah, otherwise you're just going to get very static images of me until the live streams, SpaceX's live streams get started. And at this stage, it's still slated to be at 10:10 p.m. Local Australian time. So let me just check that again. I'm just having another look. No, 10:10. So we've got another 13 minutes so far. And Lachlan's also saying hello to the panda in the background. This was a source of fascination for a few people, this panda head. I guess I owe everyone an explanation, more or less. I was hoping less rather than more, but yeah, at one stage I was a project manager, and I was putting in a learning management system, and the learning management system had a very big panda theme. So for those of you who are in that learning management space, not space, learning management area, you would know who the panda is, and you'd know who the company is. But what happened was, they had pandas. They were going to send me their panda suit. They had just turned from being more or less a startup and were trying to be a little bit more global and a bit more formal. So they kind of reluctant to send me the panda suit, plus it hadn't been washed as well. So I just went to Kmart and got myself a panda head just to keep in the spirit, and got all the staff together in a room, and we had a bit of a launch party, and a different sort of launch party where we celebrated the success of all the software going live and then going out to members right across Australia, all that sort of stuff. So that was a bit of an achievement there. So I stick him in the background just because, it invites questions, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to know who else is here in the background, go to the other side. This is Daddy Monster. We'll get to him at some point. He'll have some more content on the Space Down Under really, really soon. And this is a Kangonaut, believe it or not. This is a Kangonaut from the Australian Space Agency. So you can go and get merchandise. I couldn't get a koala naut. So there's a Kangonaut. So in a little spacesuit plushie. Beautiful little thing, and I decided to put him on camera. This stuff up here is actually, there's some really cool rocket memorabilia. This was from a company called, what was it called? PFI Aerospace. They no longer exist, unfortunately, but that was the control board for a rocket. A control board for a rocket, demonstration rocket for kids in high schools and primary schools and that sort of stuff. And this was the fuel that they were using. As you can see, it's inert, so it's completely safe. Then there's some other stuff, like there's hypersonics. Speaking of which, hypersonics, shout out to you guys. I have an interview with them tomorrow where I'll be actually recording some stuff for the Space Down Under, so you get to see what a company is doing in Brisbane that is looking to travel on a regular basis past Mark 5. So hypersonics only deals with hypersonic travel, and that is over Mark 5, so between Mark 5 and Mark 25, so 5,000 5,000 odd kilometers per hour. So they are a really, really cutting edge local Brisbane company. We're in my hometown. So yes, I'll go and have a chat to them tomorrow. And there's a little bit of a tour. I won't give too much away, but there's a little bit of a tour, an interview and a tour of their facility. So yes, they've certainly come a long way since I first initially interviewed them, and you can go and check out my channel and see all that sort of stuff there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let's see, what else have I got here? No, I'll have to go to the technical issues screen, just simply because what I'm going to do is I need to go along and have a look and see exactly what's going on with the live streams that SpaceX has. Plus also I need to take a little break. And the technical issues screen is the only one I can come up with at the last minute. So yeah, and then I'll show you guys some other stuff, which is a little bit interesting, a little bit cool. But again, as I said, if you want to see the Starship sitting on the pad, there's a whole bunch of other streamers out there who would appreciate your support, or appreciate you going to have a look. The launch pad as well is another one. Those guys as well. This is all in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, you just have to listen to this bloke rambling on. But anyway, so the point of the matter is you want to go and see it live, all that sort of stuff. Otherwise, you'll just be waiting here. So at the moment, I'm just going to take a quick break, check on all the streams and everything, and I'll be back with you. Please, again, apologies for the technical issues screen. Because I forgot to put up that Josh is taking a break. So I'll be back with you in around about 2 minutes. Alrighty, I'm back. Hang on, what have I done? Just need to improve the volume just that little bit. There we go. Almost there. All right, there we go. Just balancing everything up while I took a quick break. All right. Oh, hang on. Someone else is here as well. It's Clancy, the one who asked you to live stream Starship. Hi. Thank you for this. Sorry. Oh, all right. Yeah. I'm live streaming for Starship. Yes, I am. Yes, did I get bugged? Yes, I did. But am I happy to be here? Oh, God, yeah. I am really happy to be here. I was just explaining before about the stuff I've got there in the background on this side, and I've got stuff on this side. This one is blocked at the moment because of you can see some stuff there, but yeah, there is Starship that is right there. Sorry, I've just got an itchy eye. Wow, unprofessional. But this is unprofessional because there is no script. There's no nothing. I'm just going off. I'm just freewheeling here until things go live with SpaceX. All right. So I just thought I'd so all that stuff in the background. So I got something else in the post today. So you may remember that out of everything that's going on at the moment in the Northern Hemisphere, there was in the last 24, 48 hours, so just recently, SpaceX has competed to to the Crew Dragon capsule is Starliner, and Starliner is it's ULA's version of SpaceX's Dragon, bigger. This I think it's a CT-100 or the C-100 or all that sort of stuff. It actually went to orbit, and it took 2 astronauts up there. Suni, I can't remember her last name, and some other guy, can't remember his name. I apologize again. This is all unprepared. They had Tony Burrow, the CEO of ULA, United Launch Alliance. He got his tie cut. That was all happened in the last 48 hours, just because that's part of the tradition of launching a crew to orbit. So I got something in the post today, which is which is related to Starliner, that has actually been to space. Again, the reason why I'm mentioning One Giant Leap Australia Foundation a lot is just simply because Jackie Carpenter is one of the most awesome people I've ever met, and Jenna McCarthy as well, and the team and the crew, and they're a wonderful group of people who do all these things. But Jackie actually stuck something in the post for me, and it's this. That's the Starliner IFT4. This is the one that went to orbit. So this has been to orbit, apparently. Unless I got it wrong. But yeah, that Jackie sent that through to me, and it is embroidered. It is a mission patch. I am wondering whether or not it should go on my hoodie. It probably should. It'll probably go on a sleeve. I don't know. But yeah, that's really, really, really cool. For me, it's really, really cool being the massive space nerd. And this has been to space. So, and back, you look, the OFT2, Orbital Flight Test, that's what it stood for, Orbital Flight Test 2, it went to, tried to go to the International Space Station and didn't quite make it. What had happened was they had wasted too much fuel trying to get to orbit successfully, and the capsule has only got a certain amount of fuel on it, and it used the fuel it had on board at the time to try and boost itself up to the International Space Station. Unfortunately, it didn't actually make it. So, but when it did go up, it went up with a whole bunch of stuff to actually give to the crew on the International Space Station. It didn't make it, and so therefore it came back, and someone was generous enough to give one to Jackie, and she forwarded one to me. And it hasn't sunk into the lower layers yet, but this is just so cool. Yes, very, very, very thankful with that. Yes, and Lachlan, yes, thanks, mate. Jackie is great. She's just so awesome, just so awesome, just a wonderful person. And like every experience I've ever had with her has been absolutely and totally and utterly amazing. All right, so just checking all the live streams and all that sort of stuff. Change from IFT3 until now. Oh, yes, I can. Oh, what a question. Hang on, we'll go back to the questions and answers. I apologise, and non-professional. There we go. Can you talk about the change from IFT3 until now? Yes, I can. I can bang on about it for a very, very long time. And this is unscripted. I don't have any supporting photos or anything to go with that, or I don't have the SpaceX statement that went along with it as well. I probably could, but yeah, I'm one of those people that is a fan of the Australian space industry. I'm a big fan of the international space industry. Just because I do the Space Down Under doesn't necessarily mean I'm not a fan of everything else. Right, so yes, the changes and differences are the raceway. They've done a lot of strengthening in terms of the outside the booster. So there's what looks like raised portions or stripes down the booster. Yeah, they've done a lot more improvements with that because there was blockages in the filters and the valves and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if that was caused by ice. SpaceX hasn't been really clear with that. They just released a statement, and so it's up to you to guess. I'd assume they would have gone through and made some mitigations and changes and all that sort of stuff to make sure the valves wouldn't stick, or there wouldn't be an ice blockage, or that the fuel would actually go through and power the engines on the booster. So because when it launched the first time and was coming back, it did actually fail to light the engines upon approach approaching the ocean. So it was about 500 meters above the ocean before it went plop into the ocean, and that was because there was the blockage to the engines, and that was caused by either a faulty valve or a leaky valve, or it could have just been a blockage of ice or something else. Because when you're dealing with temperatures that are liquid oxygen, liquid methane, you're talking temperatures about negative 293 degrees Celsius, I think, for liquid oxygen. Let me just look that up. Hang on, that's probably a good idea. Liquid oxygen temperature. Oh, I've looked at that before. Minus 297 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that doesn't help me. Minus 200. Liquid oxygen is minus 207 degrees centigrade. There we go. That's better. And liquid methane temp. Ooh, I like 91 to 112 Kelvin. That doesn't mean much for anybody. I'm sorry. Oh, dear. Hang on, Kelvin. 2 degrees Celsius. So what did I say it was? I said it was 91. 91 degrees Kelvin, minus 182. There we go. That's the one. So it's liquid methane. That's the minus 182. There we go. So there we go. So yes, that's when we're talking about those temperatures. Yes, there can be ice that forms in the valves along the lines. The other thing that will that's changing between IFT3 and IFT4 is the door. So I showed you the footage there before, and I'll show it again. I'm just checking my other screens to make sure that nothing has changed. Nope, still the same. 10. Oh no, so we've blown past that time, and nothing has started. So just let me refresh everything for just a second. See if they've gone live. Yes, they've gone live. No, they haven't gone live. What? Hang on, just 2 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm experiencing some technical issues, and you'll get my technical issues screen. Okay, so I've got a hold screen and everything, so everyone bear with me. I'm just going to make some massive changes here to everything, so that way I can bring you what I've got. So I can bring you a display capture. What am I displaying? No, that's not it. Okay, there we go. Let's see what I can do with that. Okay, I'm just racing through other windows here, so that way I can continue to bring you what's going on in the background as well. So I'm just going to this one. All right, this is the one I gotta. So that way you guys can see it rather than just me. Just a second. live stream is starting. There we go. Live stream has started. And I've got it. Oh, that took a little bit of effort. I apologise for that. Here we go. Oh God, I've forgotten to talk. I'm too busy watching. You gotta admit though, these are some spectacular images, and as you can see down in the bottom left hand corner, the live stream count is going up exponentially. So yes, it is climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing for SpaceX's live stream of the IFT4.
Good morning. You're looking at
we've got 33 minutes until it actually launches.
We await its fourth flight test from Starbase, Texas, also known as the Gateway to Mars. Thanks for tuning in. We're excited to be joining you once again from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. As you can tell, the crowd is getting excited behind us. We're here in front of Mission Control Center. Now, we are targeting liftoff at 7:50 a.m. Central Time in just over 30 minutes from now. It's been roughly 2.5 months since our last Starship flight test, and the turnaround time between these tests just keeps getting shorter and shorter.
Today, we hope to surpass what we achieved in Flight Test 3 in March. Our primary goal is to get through the extreme heat of Starship reentry, which is no easy feat. As with all of our flight tests, our goal is to collect as much data as possible. Every flight gets us another step closer to a fully operational Starship. Starship is the most powerful vehicle ever developed and the first design of a rocket that is capable of making life multiplanetary.
Starship will allow us to land humans on the moon again after more than half a century, fly the heaviest payloads ever flown, and ultimately fly humans further into space than ever before. Getting there will require us to fly frequently, which is why we're producing so fast. We already have hardware built and are preparing for our next several flights.
But
these are some really cool images.
Starship is that it's designed to be fully and rapidly reusable and, of course, reliable. We've been designing from day one to realize a vision of having an entire city of people on Mars, something we know will take launching millions of pounds of cargo and equipment into space spread across thousands of launches.
The faster we can learn now, the faster we can improve and evolve Starship to achieve this vision. And that brings us to today's flight test, the fourth of many that will get us one step closer to Mars. But before we dive into the details of today's test, let's do a quick rewind and talk about our last integrated flight test, Flight 3. On March 14th, Starship successfully lifted off at 8:25 a.m. Central Time from Starbase,
Look at the
Texas.
pulsing of the atmosphere.
It cleared the launch tower and went on to accomplish several major milestones and firsts. All 33 Raptor engines on the Super Heavy booster started up successfully and completed a full duration 2-minute and 41-second ascent burn.
Then we saw our second ever hot stage separation, powering down all but 3 of Super Heavy's Raptor engines and then igniting the ship's 6 Raptors to create separation. Next, Super Heavy completed its flip maneuver and ignited the 13 center engines for the boost back burn to send it towards its splashdown point in the Gulf of Mexico. All 13 engines ran successfully until 6 engines began shutting down, triggering an early end to the boost back.
After descent, we attempted the first ever Super Heavy landing burn, which uses the same 13 center engines that we used on boostback. Since 6 of those experienced the early shutdown in the boostback burn, we attempted the landing burn with the remaining 7 Raptors, and 2 of those 7 reached main stage ignition. In the end, contact was lost with the booster at approximately 462 meters in altitude over the Gulf of Mexico, just under 7 minutes into the mission.
Post-flight data review showed that the early boost back burn shutoff was most likely caused by filter blockage where oxygen is supplied to the engines. We saw a similar issue on Flight 2 and had added hardware to mitigate it, which worked to get us to our first ever landing burn attempt.
Now for today's flight, we upgraded those filters further and made some additional hardware and software changes to increase our chances of igniting all 13 engines for the landing burn. Now turning back to the Flight 3 ship, we saw all 6 Raptor engines start successfully and powered the vehicle to space, marking the first time we completed its full ascent burn.
While coasting, we completed some additional objectives, including the opening and closing of the payload door. We also transferred propellant between tanks inside the ship, which is a key test as we prepare for full ship-to-ship prop transfers in the future. Once we were into our coast, though, the ship gradually lost the ability to control its attitude or orientation, which is done with smaller thrusters around the spacecraft.
As a result, the vehicle experienced some unplanned rolling. It still flew on the planned trajectory, but losing attitude control triggered the flight computer to skip a planned relight of a single Raptor engine while on orbit. And then the moment that we all had been looking forward to for so long, as you can see here, the ship's re-entry from space. This was the first time that we were able to get real live flight data on things like heating and vehicle control during hypersonic re-entry, of which we will talk more about later.
Not having attitude control meant both protected and unprotected areas saw heating much higher than anticipated. But we were able to get live, high-definition views and real-time data during entry thanks to Starlink terminals on the ship, which itself was a widely successful test. This gave us confidence that we'll continue to get unparalleled insight into the ship's re-entry in order to rapidly improve.
And as they say, all good things must come to an end. And for Flight 3, this occurred when contact with the ship was lost at approximately 65 kilometers in altitude, roughly 50 minutes into the mission. After reviewing data from the flight, we found the most likely cause of the unplanned rolling seen during the ship coast phase and re-entry phase was blockage of valves that help control the smaller attitude control thrusters.
We upgraded these to make them more resilient and added some additional thrusters for redundancy. Overall, we learned a tremendous amount from that last flight, and capping it off with those re-entry views was truly an exciting end to the mission.
Incredible.
So back to today's test. Today's mission profile is similar to Flight 3, but we have new test objectives, the first of which is getting through the extreme heat of re-entry.
Ooh, here we go.
About 27 minutes from now, Super Heavy will ignite its 33 Raptor engines and lift off from Starbase. A little more than 2.5 minutes into flight, the Super Heavy booster will separate from the ship in a hot stage separation, meaning that it'll light its engines while still attached to a partially lit booster. The booster will perform a flip maneuver, followed by a boost back burn. About 2 seconds after that burn ends, we'll jettison the booster's hot stage. As it heads back to Earth, the booster will attempt a landing burn before splashing down into the Gulf.
Meanwhile, the ship's engines will remain lit for just under 6 minutes during its ascent before shutting down for the coast phase. The ship will coast for about 40 minutes or so, reaching a peak altitude of 214 kilometers. And after its coast phase, the ship will attempt a controlled re-entry, including a flip maneuver and a landing burn before splashing down in the Indian Ocean.
Not far from Perth, in Western Australia.
Again, this is a test, and nothing is guaranteed. As we mentioned earlier, the booster and the ship have to contend with some extreme conditions on re-entry.
For this flight test, we do not plan to recover any hardware from the booster or the ship. With the exception of Falcon, this is no different than what happens to most rockets flying today that are expended or fall into the ocean after completing their mission. Eventually, we will land and recover Starship boosters and ships, as we do today with Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy boosters. And in fact, we've landed 316 Falcon boosters to date.
Even though recovery is not planned, the telemetry and data we receive all the way to the end is what we're looking for, which will help us continue to build a rapidly reusable Starship.
This is the most important part.
In other words, the payload for this mission is data. It's also worth mentioning that the hot stage jettison is an off-nominal procedure that we're using as a temporary way to reduce the weight of the vehicle for its water landing today.
Yeah, exactly. Future
They
design
are
gives
some
Super Heavy
spectacular
boosters
images.
a lighter weight integrated hot stage intended for full reusability, which will mitigate the need to jettison the hot stage. Okay, so now that we have a handle on today's flight test, let's check in with Dan. Dan, how's it going?
Hey, Jesse, and welcome everybody back to Starbase for yet another Starship launch. I'm coming to you live from the Raptor's Nest behind the Mega Bay. I'm here with our Pad Red team and some of our flight controllers this morning. Everything has been going really smooth.
Oh,
we did have the Red team
that
going a
is
little
an
bit earlier
image
to
and a
fix a
half,
ground side
guys.
issue, but that was taken care of. That's why we slid a little bit later into our window. But as of right now, we are on track for liftoff at 7:50 a.m. Central Time. That's 12:50 UTC. As you can see, we are actively loading propellant onto Starship and Super Heavy. Those frost lines are ticking up as we load liquid methane, that's our fuel, liquid oxygen, that's our oxidizer, onto both vehicles. They're cryogenic,
Ooh,
so they're
new graphic.
cooled to several hundred degrees below zero. Since Flight 3, we've made a few more upgrades, helping to bring Prop Farm 2.0 online. That's just going to help us to continue to shorten the amount of prop load time that we're going to need. We're also going to be using it for Launch Tower number 2, which is going to be coming to Starbase real soon. The faster we go, the less prop we're going to lose to boil off, and the better we can ensure things like temperatures are in the right range for Raptor startup. Now, those first two flights took about 90 minutes to load prop on board. That third, we knocked it all the way down to just 51 minutes. We're aiming for about 46 minutes of prop load time for today's op, eventually hoping to get that down all the way to 40, which for some context, that's just 5 minutes more than we take to load Falcon 9, but we're doing it with 10 times the amount. So this morning, ship prop load started at T-minus 50 minutes, booster at T-minus 43 minutes. We're going to pause the ship main tank prop load in just a couple of minutes to do the header tanks, which are going to do that attempted ship landing burn. We expect the ship to close out all of its prop at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds before liftoff, and then booster at about 250. Now, our final countdown sequence is going to look very familiar. It's going to be the exact same as it was on flights 2 and 3. So we'll light those engines, and then about 4 seconds later, we will actually see it lift off. But I mean, right now, we are just under 23 minutes away from launch. We're not working any issues either with the vehicle, the range. Weather is 95% go, so not dealing with any winds or weather issues today. If we do have to scrub, our next attempt would probably be about 48 hours from now. It's all going to be driven by
And yes, I'll bring it to you live if you like.
Into the count. But everything looking good for liftoff just about 22 and a half minutes from now. I'll check back in with you guys in a few minutes, and I'll send it back over to Kate and Jesse.
All right, just because there was a question that came up during before when it started going live. What does IFT mean? Integrated test flight. That's what that means. I'll just turn that down a little bit. Yes, what it means is integrated test flight. So that's just to answer your question, and we'll go back over to listening to more about what's happening.
Starship is essentially an experimental vehicle flying for development. Starship 2 will be capable of carrying more than 100 tons to orbit, and Starship 3 will be able to handle more than 200 tons to orbit. Compared to Saturn V, the rocket that first took astronauts to the moon, Starship has more than twice the thrust. And with a few planned upgrades, Starship will have 3 times the thrust of Saturn V, plus the added benefit of full reusability. The amount of mass that we're able to launch per rocket is crucial to creating a self-sustaining city on Mars.
Now, to get a sense of how big Starship is, let's start with the average size human, which is about 2 meters high.
This is going to be interesting.
Towering over our average human is the length of the Millennium Falcon, which comes in at 35 meters. Our Falcon 9 rocket with the payload fairing attached is double the size of the Millennium Falcon at 70 meters, and nearly twice the size of that is the
121 meters. I
121
apologize.
meters tall. The ship is about 50 meters tall, and the Super Heavy booster alone stands 71 meters.
Still.
Eventually, the ship and booster will get even taller.
That's a big
Starship's
ship.
first stage has a diameter roughly 2.5 times that of Falcon 9, and with 33 much larger Raptor engines, as you see there. I love this view because we don't have this view on our Falcon missions. This is looking up under the Super Heavy booster. Now, moving up the rocket, the ship features 6 Raptors.
That's a very
3
interesting
sea-level
view.
engines
Wouldn't
and
like to
3
be there
active
when it
engines,
lights.
Which, as the name suggests, are optimized to operate in the vacuum of space. And Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing on any hard surface. The ship is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable a precise landing.
And in between the first and second stages is our hot stage, our newest separation technique, which we saw in action during flight tests 2 and 3. The body of Starship is wrapped in a heat shield made up of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during atmospheric entry, where temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius.
Ew, oh no. Oh no, it froze. Oh no. Oh no. I think it might have actually frozen there a little bit. I'm just waiting. I've got the spinning wheel of death. So yeah, it's just seems to have frozen at the moment. I'll just need to find out exactly what's going on here, and hopefully it'll come back on again in a second. So yeah, just a couple of messages there, guys, in the chat. If you want to sponsor, if you like what I'm doing, please let me know. Yeah, and once this comes back, I might need to go back and refresh it, and then I'll come back again. But yeah, if you want to sponsor or anything like that, yeah, I know, Lachlan. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure if this is all supposed to be exclusive through Twitter /X/ all the right stuff. It might be that they just, I don't know. But yeah, they seem to have frozen for the moment. What I'll do is I'll go to technical issues. I'll come back in just a second. I'll try and refresh everything and see exactly what's going on. I'll be back in just a second.
100 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. Vehicle, leaving an opening downstream where we're able to point our Starlink terminals. And with Starlink also operating at a... Okay, there is something wrong with my connection, I think. Just let me see what's going on here. Hang on, I'll just go back to technical issues. Won't be a sec.
The ground, so access to this data is an invaluable tool for rapid iteration. In fact, one cool observation from that flight was seeing how shock waves form at different parts of the vehicle and how they interact to put pressure on the ship, especially the flaps.
Can't get rid of me
just yet.
This
is really valuable for Starship since no spacecraft has ever flown with 4 movable flaps like what we use for aerodynamic control. Starship's greatest strength will be rapid and reliable reusability, and Starlink has become a critical tool to make that a reality.
Over the next few flights, we'll continue to improve the Starlink performance on Starship, eventually enabling more views and enabling more data to be transmitted in real time. And we'll keep experimenting during entry. You might have noticed a few tiles missing or looking different near the bottom of
something
Starship.
everybody didn't need to see was my emails.
Place one thin tile and remove 2 tiles completely. And
there you go. You got to see them twice.
To see how hot things get without the tiles in those locations, while also testing some backup thermal protection options. Ideally, we expect Starship's reentry to improve on each flight, thanks in part to this wealth of new data. But if getting to space is hard, returning from space is even harder.
That's right. No one has ever succeeded in creating a fully and rapidly reusable heat shield. So we could see some spectacular failures before we get this right. But with communications improving on each flight, we will continue to gather more and more data to inform our development. We're now about 15 and a half minutes until our next liftoff attempt. In the meantime, let's take a look at some of the technology we have in development as we prepare to head to the moon in future missions.
Seems like there was a couple of tiles missing on the shield there for a second when they showed that.
Next year, we plan to demonstrate ship-to-ship propellant transfer, which will be important for our upcoming moon missions. Today, we're actively testing a lot of hardware that will make exploring the moon possible. One recent series of tests brought together the key pieces we'll see when landing back on the moon: Starship, spacesuits, and astronauts.
Together with Axiom and NASA, our teams put 2 astronauts in pressurized Axiom spacesuits and practiced the first steps of going to the lunar surface. The team used test builds of a Starship airlock, as you see there, and elevator to gather data on how well future Artemis astronauts will be able to move around once fully suited. Tests like this are incredibly helpful for engineers designing these systems, as they have the opportunity to get feedback directly from experienced astronauts Peggy Whitson, who is on the right of this photo, and Doug Wheelock, who's on the left.
Yeah, this was only released a couple of days ago. Not even 24 hours.
SpaceX will perform one uncrewed demonstration flight before NASA's Artemis 3 mission, which will be the first human surface expedition since 1972. After those first expeditions, we'll be ready to fly more people along with everything it takes to build a moon base. In many ways, Artemis feels like an extension of the human spaceflight work SpaceX and NASA have been partnering on for some time now. In fact, we just celebrated the anniversary of the Demo 2 mission.
That's right. Just 4 years ago, on May 30th, 2020, SpaceX launched the first crewed test flight of our Crew Dragon spacecraft. Dragon carried NASA astronauts Douglas Hurley and Robert
I watched that. I live stream it with a rocket family here in Australia. So yeah, there's a live stream on that. A video on that. I did it live and recorded it. Bob and Doug, because they actually had close ties to NASA and to these 2 individuals. Very interesting rocket family based in Australia.
And it's exciting to think about Starship being the next to take its first astronauts to the moon. In tandem with Starship development, all of our operational human spaceflight missions are helping us prepare for those future trips to the moon. Our upcoming private astronaut mission, Polaris Dawn, you can see the crew there on your screen. They will play a big role in testing procedures that will be relevant to our moon and eventually Mars missions. We're looking forward to the 3rd Polaris Dawn mission, which will be the first crewed Starship flight.
The Polaris Dawn crew will attempt to reach the highest apogee ever flown by a spacecraft, and they'll also be performing a spacewalk, or extravehicular activity, wearing SpaceX's newly designed spacesuits. They'll also be testing space-based communications, which will be critical to future deep space missions. The Polaris Dawn mission is currently targeted to launch no earlier than July of this year, so stay tuned, because that is going to be a very exciting
let me know in the comments if you want me to live stream that one too.
At T-minus 12 minutes, let's check back in with
you might as well.
Today's countdown.
Let me know.
Hey, thanks, Jesse. Everything continues to go real smoothly. It's been a real quiet day so far. The board looks really clean, not tracking any impediments to a launch just under 12 minutes from now.
So while they're doing that, I'll just flip to some questions and answers and all that sort of stuff just really quickly. Oh, okay, Hoskinson's Farms. My phone died just as I had my own technical issues. Looks like they're 85% loaded, just as a quick side note as well, just to let you guys know. The other thing is too, is if you see when I go back to the launch, just put me back, there's big squares on the top of the Starship towards the nose. I believe there's Starlink units for communications for Starship as it travels through the atmosphere. So just watch out for those on the nose. And when it shows you the top of the ship, the 4 large rectangles on the top, I believe they're the Starlink communications out from the actual Starship.
We're not tracking any blockers, any boats, anything like that in the zone right now, but their work literally continues right up until those last couple of minutes. So they're working pretty hard to make sure everything stays clear. But right now the range is green. I already talked about it in the beginning. It looks a little bit cloudy, but weather not a concern today. Really light winds. We only had about a 5% chance of violation when we started this morning, and that's held. So everything continuing to look really good for launch so far. The pad itself is getting ready. Reminder that we're going to light those engines about 4 minutes before it actually takes off. So you'll see them start, the 33 engines on Super Heavy start to light prior to that T0. And then about 2 seconds after, we'll start to see first motion. But everything looking great. Just coming up on 10 minutes until launch. Getting excited down here. Ready to feel the rumble. I'll send it back to you guys over in Hawthorne.
And when it goes, you listen to the crowd roar in the background. There we go, those squares at the top. There's 4 squares at the top that you can see there.
There is a pretty large crowd now gathering outside of Mission Control, located just behind Jesse and I. Now, actually, you can see it there on your screen.
There they are.
Everyone getting super pumped for our 4th flight test. Now, as a reminder on that note, today is just a test, the 4th of many future flight tests of Starship before it becomes fully operational. So whatever the outcome and however far we get, we can promise excitement. This rapid
that's just venting. Once it actually starts to fill up, the tanks start to fill up, they need to then vent off because it starts to boil because it is so low. So at boil, because just the normal atmospheric conditions, and as it starts to warm up, the pressure builds up inside the tank. So that's what they're venting there at the very, very top.
We are not recovering the booster or ship today. Test flights like these provide critical data through every phase of flight, which will get us closer and closer to full reusability, and we have a lot more tests planned for this year. When we start recovering Starship boosters, we'll want them to return to the launch site for a quicker turnaround, which you can see in this animation on your screen. And that's
Oops, that was good. I just said all of that while I had myself on mute. That was great.
On the tower will help guide the booster into position to ensure a precision landing.
And our goal for the near future is
there we go, the Mechazilla.
4 launch towers, 2 in Cape Canaveral in Florida.
Nicknamed Mechazilla because what it's going to do is it's going to catch the actual Starship as it comes down. The booster first, and then basically what they're looking to do is they're also looking to... I'm not sure if the Starship will return to the Mechazilla. I haven't seen the latest updates in regard to that. But yes, they're looking to catch the booster as it comes back down. There is no legs on it, no landing legs, no nothing. They're doing that as a weight-saving opportunity to make sure that it wasn't as heavy as what they were expecting. The legs was going to add a heavy weight penalty to it, so they will catch the booster because that's the only way it can successfully land, so that way it can be refueled and then relaunched. And I think Starship will have legs. I've seen earlier renders of it. We'll have legs that will land on a pad. I'm not sure what the latest is of that.
Ships and Super Heavy boosters built and either ready to launch or in testing for the next several flights, with more coming off of the production line as SpaceX's Star Factory continues to grow. The latest phase of the factory currently under construction will come online this summer, giving us several 100,000 more square feet of space.
Yeah, when you step into this factory, it is truly inspirational. My heart jumps out of my chest every time I'm there. Now, this will enable us to increase our production rate significantly as we build toward our long-term goal of producing 1 ship per day. And coming off the production line soon,
1 ship per
Starship
day?
version 2. Now, with all that being said, let's check back in with
Wow.
for the latest as we head into the terminal count.
Okay, that's news. I haven't heard that one before.
Hey, thanks, Kate. Everything still looks great. We're getting ready to launch. We are just under 6.5 minutes away. You can
Well, I
see
like it when things are nominal and things are going well, but the person who actually has to talk about it has not much to say.
And then the boosters
It's very interesting.
coming up on 90% real soon. So we're going to see those close out in the next couple of minutes. Ship's going to end at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It'll be fully loaded. And then booster at about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. After all the props loaded on, we go through a lot of steps to safe ground systems. You're doing things called pushbacks.
We'll go back to the questions and answers for a second, just while he's talking about that. Hodgkinson Farms, using the same thing you did to stream the last rocket for the... Not sure what you mean by that, but yes, I'm using the same. No, I had mobile equipment, but yes, I'm using the same sort of audio and all that sort of stuff. The audio panel that I have to take in the microphone, all that sort of stuff. Yes, it's called a Mini Fuse 2. It's very, very portable, but however, it does have limitations. There is a slight echo to all of my live streams that I've done, and doesn't have enough volume and balance and all that sort of stuff. So unfortunately, whilst it is portable, it is not really that great in terms of live streams and all that sort of stuff. So we'll just return back to these excellent images. Oh, this is amazing. Yeah, there is a drone out there, even though they've issued a notice to airmen, which means that no commercial airlines can go through that airspace, helicopters, personal aircraft, all that sort of stuff, because they're the issuer. They can do whatever they like with that particular airspace, which include fly their own drones.
Now, after that, the quick disconnect arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction shortly after T0. Gas lines connected to the booster and ship are vented down, and once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds and hold there to assess what happened and if we can proceed again to T0.
However, once the water for the deflector system begins flowing at T-minus 10 seconds, any issue after that would be an automatic scrub for the day, as teams would need to refill the deflector's water tanks, as well as the lock storage tanks at the tank farm before making another attempt. So, as Dan mentioned earlier,
T-minus 4 minutes
to hold at the
coming
optional
up.
T-minus 40-second mark. That moment basically was what would allow teams to wait for final checkouts or assess prop levels or avionics, vehicle pressurization, the range, the weather. Weather is 95% go, as you can see from these incredible drone views that we have and pad cams. It is a beautiful day. Of course, we have some clouds billowing from the locks there.
Yeah, and again, a reminder that the payload for this mission is data, and our primary goal is to get ship through the extreme heat of re-entry.
Yeah, that's right. Starlink is actually on Starship. So yes, there is the question there. I'll just go back to that for just a second. Yes, Starlink is actually on the Starship. So there is a couple of units there underneath those black squares to give us all the data and give SpaceX all the data and telemetry and all the excellent images once this goes to launch.
We will be attempting to perform a landing burn to have a soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. We made some improvements from our Flight 3 learnings, so hopefully that will work and we'll see a successful soft splashdown. For the ship, we're hoping to demonstrate controlled re-entry, including a flip maneuver and landing burn, and that will be followed by splashdown in
Yes, I did. I did use the answer to the question. I used Starlink to stream the high impulse launch in South Australia. So yes, I did actually manage to use that, and it is as stable as what you think it is too. It is fantastic to use. A little bit expensive. The hardware is not exactly cheap, and the plan that I was on was not exactly cheap. But yes, yeah, that's what I used. So we'll just return. Wrong screen. Hang on, I'll get back to the right screen. Woohoo. Okay, that was a wild ride. And what I'll do is I'll end up muting myself, and we'll just watch this together as we're coming down to the last 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Lines into ship and booster have closed. Right now we're doing the pushback, so clearing out all those ground lines of propellant, and that'll be completed over the next couple of seconds. We're coming up on that T-minus 40 mark. Again, not planning to hold. If we do, or if we get a hold after we pass it, we can snap back to that T-minus 40, and then we can stay there for about 30 minutes or so if any other issues crop up.
Okay, there is Elon sitting there as well in the control room with his son. Used to be by the name of X. Not sure if he's changed his name legally. I hope so.
We essentially built that 40 seconds as that's about how much time it takes for the vehicle to take all of those actions, which is why we hold there. But all of that happens automated. You do a final checkout of the TVC, the thrust vector control, how we're going to steer. And then we see liftoff. So we're under a minute away.
Here we go. Coming up on the critical moment. T-minus 40.
45 seconds and counting.
Good event, game at.
All right, now as we close in, we are past the 40-second mark. So
Through that window.
let's listen in.
Flight director is
Ty
go to launch.
Huntington's going to take us
Here we go.
through one more time for a Starship liftoff.
T-minus 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh! Oh! The atmospheric distortion.
Vehicle is pitching down.
That's real. Those pulses. She's off. One engine has failed to light. The graphic down, the circles, white circles down in the bottom left-hand corner. It doesn't really matter. There are 32 more of them.
The rumbles are still building here in the Raptor's nest. We're seeing 32 out of 33 engines lit on the Super Heavy right now. Coming up shortly is going to be Max Q, that maximum aerodynamic pressure as we go uphill on the vehicle.
Max Q is where they need to throttle down to reduce the amount of forces on the rocket before throttling back up.
All right, we just passed through Max Q, so we're going to continue on up. We still have about a minute and 30 seconds until we get to stage separation. Starship now flying faster than the speed of sound.
What?
All right, so you got a couple of views. You got some ground trackers in your top camera there. You're looking down from the top of the booster in the bottom left, and then a camera in the top flap of the ship looking back in the bottom right, so getting a couple of different looks as Starship heads uphill. Once we get the hot staging, a lot of things happen all at once, simultaneously. We're going to light the engines on the ship, starting with the RVACs first, and then the 3 center sea level engines. Before we're separated,
this is crazy.
all of that exhaust gets plumed out the side of the hot stage, and then the ship will separate itself. All but the 3 center
Here we go.
engines
We're going to come up to hot staging soon.
are going to shut down.
So you'll actually see the
Never
Starship
stops
fire its
thrust while
engines
we go through
before
the stop
separation,
stage
and it'll
maneuver.
come out the side where you can see
After that,
about
the
half,
booster's
just
gonna
down
do a
past the
flip,
flaps.
start heading back,
That's where it'll be.
and then the ship will be on its own power, on its way to space. So that's
Here it comes,
in just about 30 seconds from now.
Yep, they're pre-chilling now,
As
which
of
is
right
why
now,
you see that
still
gas
looking
outing.
like 32 out of 33 Raptors lit on the booster. And we'll start to see those stagger down. They're going to turn off in banks, so you'll see the lights on the bottom left screen of the engines that are active start to turn off in different groups, and you'll see those 3 center ones lit.
Here we go. Coming up on stage separation.
Engine cut off. Ship ignition.
There, hot staged.
Stage separation confirmed.
Boost back burn, start up.
Acquisition of Houston.
Okay, that's a lot more engines than last time, IFT3. Although
Hot
this was
stage confirmed.
nominal at this
Ship
point as
under its
well.
own power, booster boosting back. Looks like all 13 are lit. Kate, we got a booster on the way back to the Gulf and a ship on the way to space.
Acquisition signal, status.
She's going.
Ship chamber pressures are nominal.
Ship power and telemetry nominal.
All right, the first stage currently performing the boost back burn. This is expected to last a little over 1 minute. This propels the booster back toward the coast, taking it to a landing in the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. As you can see on your screen in the bottom left-hand corner, we were only using the 13 center engines from here on.
Boost back burn, shut down.
Heard confirmation there of
Successful shutdown of boost back burn.
Shutdown.
H2 tank pressures are nominal.
And the roar.
Lots of excitement. So right here, this is
Oh.
This is our view of the jettisoned hot stage. As we mentioned, this is a temporary fix to help reduce the weight of the booster, excuse me, the super heavy booster. Future
that was
iterations will
cool.
have a lighter weight
Sorry.
integrated hot stage structure that won't need to be jettisoned. Now, after we jettison that hot stage, the booster will begin to attempt its water landing in the Gulf. In the meantime, the ship will coast for about 40 minutes or so up to an altitude
this is
of
going to be a long coast,
230
guys.
kilometers. And after its coast phase, it will attempt a controlled re-entry, including a flip maneuver and a landing burn, just before splashing down in the Indian Ocean. But as a reminder, we are not
Starship
attempting.
trajectory nominal.
Good news there. Trajectory is looking good for the ship, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. At this point in time, as you can see, we have no engines lit on the booster. It is coasting back toward the Gulf of Mexico for a water landing and ship under power of all 6 Raptor engines. There's 3 sea level and 3 vacuum Raptor engines that are lit, as we can see on your screen.
Yeah. Oh my God. The speed is increasing on the booster on the left-hand side as it comes back through the atmosphere.
These have been looking incredible. Super Heavy has been performing beautifully today. And you can hear the crowd is very excited about it. As a reminder for booster, the primary goal today is to do a landing burn and a splashdown in the water. And we are just about 30 seconds away from that landing burn expecting to begin. And
What's
an
that?
incredible view from the forward portion of the booster. This is basically on top of the Super Heavy booster. Where
Wow.
we have jettisoned that hot stage. So now we can see this
Something flew off?
incredible view of Earth as it's making its way back
Oh,
down
wow.
to the Gulf
That
of Mexico.
is incredible.
Right now, the booster is using the
Oh!
hypersonic grid fins to guide itself through atmospheric re-entry.
That's a new view. I've never seen that before.
And we are expecting that landing burn here.
It's slowing down. It's not using any engines because it's coming through the thicker parts of the atmosphere. It gets thicker toward as you get closer towards Earth, and that naturally slows it down.
Igniting 13 engines, and this is a great view. On your left-hand side is 3 views from the booster, and your right-hand side a view from the ship. And you can see those grid fins on your left-hand screen rotating and
is it
turning
gripping?
to guide the booster. And there's
This
that
is
landing
lit.
burn. That landing burn has begun, and you can see the water below.
Oh! It's landing! It's landing! Oh!
We have splashdown.
Ah! It landed!
What an incredible sight! Congratulations to the SpaceX team!
Ship has entered terminal guidance.
That was absolutely incredible. The
Expected low
first
signal,
successful splashdown of the Super
Wow.
Heavy booster. Love seeing
That
it
was
just tip
incredible.
over into the water before losing that footage. Now the next milestone is coming up in about under a
Acquisition
minute.
signal, QA.
Ship is going to shut off its Raptor engines.
Ship engine cut off.
Which
Oh, there we
see
go.
right there.
Starship has shut down engines. A little bit
As we
concerned about the
mentioned,
angle it's got
before,
going at the moment.
Today's test flight is not an orbital flight, but rather one that demonstrates the Starship's
It's shut
orbital
down
capability.
the vacuum optimized engines. It's still burning the 3 center engines, so it's still powering its way through. It's at, if you
right
notice,
now,
the speed
we
is
are
around
under
about
power
26,000
with
kilometers
just the
per hour.
three-center
So it's
Raptor
going
engines.
faster than the usual
Expecting
orbital
those
speed,
to end
which is
just
around
there.
about 25,000 kilometers per
Also
hour.
successfully cut
And there,
off.
we cut off.
Ship FDS is saved.
What an
Nominal
incredible...
orbit insertion.
Oh, there's great news there. The call out we were hoping to hear. Amazing views once again from Starship. We
Wow.
have our second
These
Starship
views
in
are
space. These live
incredible.
views being brought to us by Starlink, which is on board the ship. Dan, what an incredible view we have once again. So exciting. We got another ship in space.
I'm like still jumping up and down.
Expected loss signal.
This whole building was going absolutely
Okay, I'm just going
insane
to come back to
when
me
we
for just a
saw
second.
The booster hit the water. I mean, wow!
It works. It works. Look, the booster actually landed. I'm doing this now because there's going to be at least 20 to 30 minutes worth of coast stage once the engine is fully shut down. They've also got to do a bit of a flip maneuver. They've got to make sure the ship is oriented, so this is going to take quite some time for that all to happen quite successfully. So this is the time to ask some questions and answers and all that sort of stuff. So yes, absolutely, it's been cool. I've been watching the messages come in, and yay, absolutely, and yes, Dean, absolutely. Thanks very much for hanging around for all of this, for listening to me ramble on.
Powered it all the way into a nominal orbital trajectory, and we've already been getting some live views from the ship on board. After that, the booster was able to do its boost back burn. Oh, this looks like we're actually getting some views from the ground still, potentially from Florida, of the ship as it's up there.
That's the ship.
That's a view
from Florida.
Some of our tracking cameras.
That's Starship
in Florida. But the ship, we just heard successful orbital insertion, so it's right where it needs to be. And is now going to continue on its way to coast.
Wow, that was amazing. Still going through the comments. You're welcome, Lachlan. I'm more than happy to do this. And yes, Dean, the booster did land. We saw it right before it tipped over. This actually means that SpaceX is now well and truly on the path to reusability for the Starship. Just because they are able to land that booster, that means that's a massive deal. They're going to try it again. I believe that they're going to have another try at this IFT4, where they'll try again in the water before they actually try and land it back to the Mechazilla and the tower that it launches from with those gigantic arms. And they can do that. Just remember that these guys, SpaceX, are able to do this on a regular basis because they currently do it right now. It seems impossible right now, but let me just say that they're able to land a first stage booster back on a drone ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and they have done that over 300 times now. Launches 300, launches 300, landings 200 and something, or maybe 300 now. They are able to do this on a regular. They have this down pat. They know how to do it. So landing between those two arms is not going to be such a big deal. This is.
We are still testing Starlink during this phase of flight. Of course, nothing is
Elon's
certain.
crazy.
However,
but
if we do have
don't
views,
bet against
we will
Elon.
be
I'll
sure
tell you
to
what.
bring those to you live.
Dude.
Views such as the one, that we. Of course, because I said it.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Hopefully I'm doing a good job. Again, back to waiting for acquisition of signal. I'm just
re-entry, flip maneuver, landing burn, and splashdown.
Yeah, sorry. I just got distracted with what they were saying. So basically they've lost signal at the moment. So again, just here you can see that they're waiting for the acquisition of signal. Yes, Starlink still exists, all that sort of stuff. They're still getting data and telemetry, but what they're not getting at the moment is the video, which is why they're getting the acquisition of signal, which is why it's there. So coming back to that booster landing, oh wow, that is just amazing. And the footage you saw of that, it was in detail, it was right there. You cannot bet against this guy. And this is just absolutely phenomenal that SpaceX is able to do this. Clearly, it was successful. They're possibly going to be testing the door again. I'm not sure if they will. They haven't got a payload there, as they've said during the live stream. They're mainly after all the data. So they've had some very, very successful data. Puerto Rico. They've just had some very, very successful data and telemetry from the booster, even though it fell over in the end there. It's 50 meters high, 50 meters tall, 9 meters wide. It is a huge booster. Yes, that is possibly lost. I'm not sure if there's any plans I've heard of that for returning that, so they can possibly look at refurbishing it, reusing it, or recovering the stainless steel out of it. I'm not sure how that is going to go. Wow. Just take a minute. My brain fused for a second. Wow. Oh, it just absolutely, it is mind-blowing to me that they just did that, and they did it successfully. Just keep in mind, I'm just going to say this once more for luck and for pleasure and for all this sort of stuff. This is the 4th test of the fully integrated. It's just the 4th. They're going to have a 5th. They'll probably have a 6th. They may even get all the way up to 10. But this is... Oh, hang on. Music is getting a bit loud. Just let me turn that down a little bit on their side. All right. So, yeah. So, it's loud in my ears too. There we go. That's better. All right. So, yeah. So, this is only the 4th test. 4. Sorry. 4. Well done. 4. And as you saw in some of the introductory footage that they had there, that they have more of these. They have these. I did a quick count. I saw at least another 4. Plus, they're bringing up an entire huge new factory to produce. Let me give you one of these statistics that I heard that blew me away. 1 Starship per day. They're able to produce 1 Starship and booster, I'd imagine, per day. That's 33 engines on the booster. There is 6 excuse me, 6 on the Starship. There is space for a lot more. There is space for the smaller engines, a little in a different sort of configuration. And as they said, some other statistics as well, they were also saying that they're able to make Starship bigger, taller. Oh, and this is the first. This is the first. You got to remember, this is the prototype. This is the prototype. And they've just, 4 launches, and it's successful. We yet to see whether or not the Starship has the same sort of success, but certainly excitement is guaranteed. Oh, I quoted Elon. There you go. I quoted Elon. That's fine. Yes, the excitement is certainly guaranteed, and SpaceX is able to, bring us some spectacular images with all of this. This is just amazing. Hang on. We'll go back to the questions and answers, because some more people have said that, okay, you just realized you haven't talked at all. Hey, Kay, how's it going? Kay or Kai or whatever it is. I apologize if I've mispronunciated that, but I think everybody who follows me on the Space Down Under is used to that by now. What I would have said 5 minutes ago, the holy stars, that was impressive. Yeah. Wow. Just wow. I stopped commenting at one point. I just lost the plot and was just watching, because it is fascinating to watch this all happen. And I've got one of my favorite people. G'day, Malcolm. How's it going? Good seeing you. Thank you very much for joining the live stream. I do appreciate it, mate. Hope you're well. Yes, this is really, really impressive, mate. It is so impressive. Someone who has had a little bit of interest in the Australian space industry, Malcolm, I'd love to chat to you about this sort of stuff. Maybe we should line up an interview. Reach out if you need to, mate. I just thought it might be a good idea to put you on the spot without committing you to anything. But yeah, that was absolutely amazing and spectacular, and just I cannot wait to see what happens next. There's still part 2 to all of this, which is Starship, making sure Starship is able to come back in to land, all that sort of stuff. It'll land in the ocean. It will look from the graphic that I saw. we all saw at the beginning of this, it looked like that Starship was going to go tail first and try a bit of a soft landing on the ocean. Initially, when they were talking about this, it was going to be complete belly flop into the ocean. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll certainly get the images of whatever happens from this point onwards of whether or not this will be, whether or not we'll see what their final designs are. Again, SpaceX keeps this all close quarters. They are more surprisingly transparent than a lot of other launch companies out there, including some Australian launch companies, which is, I understand why you want to keep things undercover because you're not certain of certain things working. That's understandable. I get that. But yeah, SpaceX is always, very transparent, but not 100% transparent because there are some things they do keep to themselves. But yes, if you want to know more, if this has sparked you to go and find out more about SpaceX and Starship and the more about the Australian space industry, then please follow me. Like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff, comment below, comment in the chat, all that sort of stuff, share, yada, yada, yada. You know what to do. You've been watching YouTube longer than I have. So yeah, do all that kind of stuff. I will be bringing you more stuff on the Space Down Under. There's some news I've got coming up soon, so I'll be making announcements about that, and that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. So yeah, hang out for that one if you wish. But yes, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything like this. Suddenly being coerced into me suddenly being coerced into doing a live stream by a bunch of kids, Lachlan being one of them. Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. Look, you strong armed me into it. And yes, Hoskins Farms, sorry. Thank you very much for also saying as well, when we met in person. Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was possibly a good idea to get me to do this. I've enjoyed myself. I'm still enjoying myself. I can't wait to see what happens next. But yes, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave you guys on this window, and what I'll do is I'll take a short break. I'll mute the microphone, all that sort of stuff. I might even turn off the camera if I can, and yeah, I've got to take a break because yeah, when I start talking, I keep talking and all that sort of stuff. But yes, I'll leave you with this here. Hang on, let me just see what I can do here. I can see if I can go. Nope, that does nothing. That sucks. Get rid of that. Hang on, let me see if I can. Nope. I'm just trying to make sure. Oh, there we go. Duplicate. Now, what I'll do is I'll get rid of myself. All right, so what I'll do is I'll just leave you guys. You can still hear me. You can still hear me for now. You can see me on this one. So I've just created a new screen so that way you don't actually have to look at me. I'll leave you guys for the moment. I just need to go and grab a glass of water. Hang on. Whoop. What have I done? Try that again. I'll just go and grab myself a glass of water. I'll refresh myself, all that sort of stuff. I'll leave you with the wonderful dulcet tones that are coming from the SpaceX live stream from X, or Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. But yes, this is a very, very exciting time for the global space industry. Hopefully, the Australian space industry will make some firsts as well in behind all of this. Again, as I said, if you want to find out all about that, I can bring you up to speed with a lot of that stuff. Just keep in mind that at the moment it's just me and me by myself. I'm a one-man operation, so yeah, if you want to like, subscribe, do all that stuff, if you want to support me on Patreon, please do. You want to go into a partnership and support me that way, go and have a look at my website at the support page. There's a whole bunch of ways to support me. We can do all sorts of things if you wish. Just let me know. So all right, I'll just stop talking for now. I shall leave you with this hold screen, and I'll be back on in around about 5 minutes time. over. All right, there we go. Hang on, and it's also my ears a little bit. There we go. All right, so so they've actually given the uploaded the images of the booster landing in the ocean. So that is an achievement in itself. So if you want to go and check out SpaceX on X, Twitter. That's probably the better idea to do at the moment. So yeah, again, I can't. There's nothing else there for now about what's happening. There's no updates. There's no updates about Starship as it's traveling around the Earth. It is traveling more towards Australia. It takes on average around about 90 minutes to travel right around the planet at orbital speeds. So it doesn't take very long at all. So they're looking at 40 minutes. I'm not sure if that's 40 minutes from the point of separation or that's 40 minutes in total flight time. So I guess we're about to find out whether or not that's going to happen on what will happen at around about the 40-minute mark. I'm assuming that at some point we'll get a new acquisition of signal. We'll get some really, really cool images from Starship as it orbits the Earth, and so that's something that we'll have to look forward to in just a second. But yeah, look, also guys, thank you very much for going on with the chat. I really appreciate that, and Lachlan for liking and subscribing. I do appreciate every one of you for being here with me. I didn't think anybody would show up, but look guys, I really appreciate you being here. So It's a real honour to have you all here. But I was just going to say, if you want to have a look at the while we're waiting for the acquisition of signal, there's a couple of things to note about the speed and the altitude that actually indicates that this is in orbit at the moment. One of them is the speed, and that is around about 25,000 kilometers per hour. So first things first is we'll go back a step. When you noticed that the Starship was taking off, you noticed it went up and it had a slight tilt, and then once it reached went through max Q and then went past max Q just before stage separation, it really kind of tilted right over, and the reason why it does that is because it's a combination of two things. It's the speed that it needs to gain, but it also needs to not go vertical. It needs to go more horizontal with a slight incline, and the reason why is because you need to go fast enough to aim at the horizon but miss. It sounds like a really bad joke. It's not, but that's how orbital mechanics works. And the whole idea is to then, because what happens is that if you like the high impulse launch, they went to an altitude of 50 kilometers. That was a sounding rocket. It was never going to go to space. It was going to go to 50 kilometers, but it forms a parabolic arc. So whatever will go up will come. Whatever goes up must come back down. It almost sounds like some sort of law or principle or something like that. And what happens is it forms a parabolic arc. So if you can imagine that same parabolic arc, then with more speed and with more horizontal inclination, slight tilt up, then what happens is that parabolic arc then goes more towards the horizon, and then eventually what will happen is that parabolic arc will then start to circularize around the Earth, and that is orbit, providing you're traveling fast enough. If you're not traveling fast enough, then what happens is the atmosphere does extend all the way out to the moon. Believe it or not, scientists believe that our atmosphere blows out that far, very, very thin, very, very, very thin. But yes, the atmosphere extends a long way and starts to create drag. So everything that's up there at the moment, except for those things that are at 30,000 kilometers, which is above the Earth, but not all the way out to the moon. It doesn't create enough drag out towards the moon. Let me just say that and make that clear. But closer in, then yes, everything suffers a drag, including the International Space Station. So the Starlink satellites all experience the drag. The International Space Station needs to be continuously reboosted, because it does suffer orbital drag and gets dragged down, so they need to boost it back up, as long as the speed doesn't change at all. So there you go. So it tells you it's in orbit. The other thing is the altitude is 171 kilometers. It's still high enough at the moment. So it's higher, it's lower than the International Space Station and Starlink satellites. The Starlink satellites are just above the International Space Station, which I think is 340 kilometers in altitude. So yes, it is slowly descending. It's lost about 10 kilometers since they started the waiting acquisition of signal. Here we go. We're back. Some footage. Oh, that's lovely. That's gorgeous. There we go. Look at that. Look how pretty that is. And as we all know, the Earth is completely and totally and utterly flat, and this is a fisheye lens. Sorry. If you follow me on here, you know, I do have a very dry wit and I'm very sarcastic, but I don't get to show that very often. And it's late at night now. It's almost 11:30 at night. So in Brisbane, where I'm from. So yes, it's getting later. So Josh has been up for quite a long time and might get a little bit loopy. So yeah, apologise for the that comment there. But yeah, I think we're all space-based nerds here. That's a spectacular view. I can tell exactly where that is. That's near the front flap, the forward flap, towards the nose there. And that little white thing, it would be frozen liquid oxygen or a little bit of frozen methane. Because they also filled the header tanks as well, and so what happens is when it bursts, and a series of bursts over time to orient Starship into the correct orientation, which looks really good at this point. By the way, it seems to be facing the right way. It doesn't seem to be spinning out of control, which is always good. It's a massive plus. And I'm just having a look. Yeah, it's right near the heat shield, so it's the forward one. I can tell because of the shape of the flap. The forward flap is a little bit different to the aft flap there, and it seems the flaps are still up. It looks like. It looks like the correct orientation to me. It's starting to... Okay, so if you look at the graphic at the bottom of the screen, more towards the right-hand side, you see it's actually tilting from engines facing rearward to engines starting to face down. And it's lost more height. So that's despite the speed, that's the atmosphere. That's our wonderful, wonderful atmosphere dragging on Starship. Starship is a huge vehicle, and it is massive. So the drag on this thing is going to be even more so. So once they put the flaps down, then we're getting into the really interesting thing, which is to actually really reduce the speed overall in its entirety, so that way it can start to come back through the atmosphere. 149 kilometers, it's coming back pretty quick now. So yeah, it's starting to increase. The other thing is too, is you'll notice as it starts to come back towards through the atmosphere, the speed will also increase as well, because you know it's coming almost like a downhill, almost like it's a the parabolic arc again, which is what I explained before. All right, you should do a stand-up. No, I shouldn't. I shouldn't do stand-up comedy. I should never do that. I'm not that funny. Well, I'm funny to exactly one person. Me. Oh, we're back. Hang on. I'm getting some audio.
7:50 a.m. Central Time, followed by successful hot staging, stage separation, of the hot stage structure, an epic super heavy booster water landing in the Gulf of Mexico, the first successful return of the super heavy booster. So that was incredible to see. And right now, the ship is in space. As you can see here by this view, we're looking at one of the flaps of Starship, one of 4. You can actually see a close-up side detail of some of those hexagonal heat shield tiles. Now, coming up around T plus 49 minutes, the ship will re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. As a reminder, the primary goal of today's flight test is for ship to make it through the extreme heat of re-entry. This is typically a portion of flight where we don't have communications with the spacecraft because it's re-entering at or around orbital velocity, which is about 8 kilometers per second or roughly 5 miles per second. At those speeds, the spacecraft moving through the atmosphere results in friction and creates a plasma field around the vehicle. That blanket of plasma distorts, as you can see, that plasma blanket, which you can kind of see here, distorts communication frequencies, so we're left with a brief blackout in communication.
Ah, look at that belly flop.
Yeah, that's right, Kate. And Starlink's what's really allowing us to capture as much data as possible, especially through this reentry. Updated animation.
Can you imagine being on that when it does that flip maneuver?
But these live views that we're getting now, we're going to continue to get are through Starlink. That's going to allow us to get as much data as possible. Which
so this is the other thing that's going to happen as well is that on this you're going to see something which is historical, which is in the IFT3 we saw it, and we'll see it again here. The Starship looks to be in the right orientation to me. It will be coming back through the Earth's atmosphere. So what this means is we might actually get to see it on its full re-entry, because remember that those Starlink panels I was telling you about to begin with, those black patches on the nose cone, they're at the top of the vehicle. So they should still theoretically be connected to Starlink, which is above Starship. So that's a much better orientation too. That there's less roll with that. It doesn't seem to be flipping end on end. It seems to be at the right orientation at the moment.
As we continue to evolve Starship, again, this is an experimental vehicle. Believe me, I want as many camera views as you all do. So huge shout out to the AVI and the software teams and everybody that's been working with us. We're getting more cameras on Starship. Not just because it looks cool, but this provides an incredible insight into reentry, which is, historically a really tough window to look through. The physics of reentry are insanely intense.
Who are they flying over?
One of my favorite NASA astronauts, Victor Glover, recently described it as with the forces and the flows and the temperatures, it's like pointing at a raging river in one spot and saying, tell me exactly what's happening right there. And that's what a ship is experiencing as it goes through, as it's moving through the atmosphere at more than 5 miles a second and heating up to thousands of degrees. So just having visual representation, just being able to see what's happening is incredibly valuable. So these views are going to be through Starlink. We've got this one. This is in one of the forward flaps looking back. So if you see it rotating around, that's because, again, it's embedded in one of those forward flaps. So as we get through and we start to build up density in the atmosphere, this view is going to move around as the flap does. And then the other one we had a little bit earlier is looking at one of the other forward flaps on the other side. Eventually we're going to keep adding more cameras to Starship, get a couple of different views from the outside of all the different areas, and then also eventually to be able to see payloads once they're deployed. So a lot more exciting stuff coming up in the future. But right now we're getting closer to reentry. Again, we're going to be moving at hypersonic speeds of more than 5 times the speed of sound. We're going to see that plasma start to build. So, Jesse,
and you can see the plasma building now.
Yeah, as you can see with that view on your screen again.
That fuzzy-looking orange, kind of reddish haze is coming back through the atmosphere. It's starting to bite atmosphere, and that's happening now.
Live reentry, hopefully, and control itself.
Exactly. We've been talking about this entire flight test. There's 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles surrounding the bottom portion or the Earth-facing side of the ship.
Through 100 kilometers altitude, good altitude for entry.
Great call outs there. Now, during atmospheric reentry, the vehicle is going to see temperatures as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit or over 1,400 degrees Celsius. So those tiles are there to help.
Going to get nice and toasty.
Yeah, and the flaps will help control it. Now, one noticeable difference I see immediately, those flaps are not moving as much as they were on Flight 3. So that is a great sign, right? We had unplanned loss of roll control on Flight 3, so we added some additional thrusters, and we can see that they're working well, and we have a much more stable view. So those flaps, there's 4 of them, 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. They're made out of stainless steel. And yeah, they help steer the ship, which, as we can see, the plasma continuing to build. Now, if the ship survives re-entry, it will have to perform a flip maneuver as well as a landing burn. We saw this demonstrated
Okay, the reason why the camera is moving is because I found out from IFT3 the camera is actually on the flap. Believe it or not, those currently tucked up, it'll start to extend.
We are getting during this point, which again, we usually don't get during spaceflight because of this plasma. We're getting this live. This is great news. So similarly to, for example, the serial number 10 test that we saw a couple years ago, we're hoping to duplicate that again today. Hopefully we will see it live. And basically the 3 center engines of the ship will reignite.
Okay, I'm just going to remind you, up until SpaceX and with Starship started doing this, this has never been seen before. There's been very grainy footage from inside the US space shuttle, from astronauts taking footage while going through the atmosphere, and you don't get to see this. I got to see it on the inside, where it was just a glow. Now you actually get to see it on the outside.
Kilometers altitude, the flaps have control of the vehicle.
Great news. Flaps have control of the vehicle. That's exactly what we want to hear for this flight test.
Yes!
Yeah. Again, we are going to be doing a propulsive landing instead of a more traditional means like parachutes. And we are expecting re-entry to begin here in just about a minute. Re-entry.
Okay, here we go.
View that we have here.
Starship remains on a good entry trajectory.
This is the same view that we had when we first returned from the coast phase. Again, this is looking at the side of one of the flaps. It's incredible that literally at the bottom of this picture, we're basically looking through plasma, which is just absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, this is insane.
Very wild. Now we are expecting entry to begin here in about 30 seconds or so. Entry to splashdown is expected to last about 6 minutes long. And that flip maneuver should occur around about 10 minutes before splashdown. And such incredible views that we're getting.
Approaching peak heating region.
Great call outs there.
This is where it may lose signal.
Yeah, these views are absolutely astounding.
Nose temperatures continue to rise within expected region.
And in your bottom right-hand corner, you can also follow along with the altitude of ship as it's returning back to Earth.
As you can see as well, the speed is falling.
Again, this view is basically
because of the drag
into the plasma blanket that is building up around the exterior of Starship. It is traveling, as you can see on your screen. You can look in the bottom right-hand corner and see how fast it's going, how high it is, as well as the general orientation. Again, we're seeing a lot more stability, a lot more control here on this flight, which is great. It shows that the iterations, the learning...
Starship is now in expected peak heating region.
All right, great news there, telling us that this is basically the hottest point that Starship should get during its re-entry. Now, the heat shield is working with the atmosphere for some free braking, okay? The atmosphere is helping to slow the Starship down.
Yeah, exactly. We're not using any engines or thrust to slow the vehicle down. Exactly what Kate mentioned. We're just using the atmosphere and those heat shield tiles protecting the vehicle as it's coming through that high heat temperature.
Yeah. Now, this is another one of those moments that we have been waiting for. Right now, the ship is currently re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and by all looks and all call-outs that we're hearing on the net, it is doing pretty well. Now, we do not plan to recover the spacecraft today, but rapid and reliable reusability is the ultimate goal.
And just pausing to just take in this incredible new and different view that we're seeing.
Yeah, this is amazing.
We did get a similar view in Flight 3, but again, the vehicle did lose a little bit of its control, attitude control, and this is a very stable view. This is great. This is exactly what we want, and we are hearing that we're getting expected call-outs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Starship is seeing half a G of acceleration, remains on a good entry trajectory.
You know, it's incredible to look at this photo and wonder, wait, is it real? Is it frozen?
Yeah, this is real.
You know, we can see the, yeah, so I was just going to say we can.
Those temperatures have stopped increasing.
Oh, that is great news. The temperature is no longer building. But I was saying, like, we have a little bit of indication there. We can see that streaking that occurs and tells us that this is indeed a true view. So once again, we are looking basically through the plasma that is building up around the exterior of the ship.
And I still cannot get over that we are getting a live view of re-entry right now, live on your screen. Again, we've said this over and over, but all thanks to Starlink. We are able to use Starlink in space, which we're getting this incredible data. And not only just the data from the sensors, but getting live imagery of what is actually happening, which is great, which we've never been able to do live before.
Right. Now, just a quick future outlook here. So in about, let's see, at T plus about 1 hour and 2 minutes, we should hear a call out for entry transonic. That means that the ship is going near the speed of sound. And then about a minute after that, we'll hear another call out saying entry subsonic, meaning that the ship is going below the speed of sound. So these are all continued indications that the atmosphere, right, as the ship comes back down, it is getting through the more dense part of the atmosphere, and that atmosphere is helping to push against the vehicle, and those heat shields are protecting the vehicle during this high heat period.
Yeah, the whole idea of this is actually to slow the vehicle down enough, Starship down enough, so that way they're able to do the atmospheric re-entry.
What you're starting to see as the atmosphere gets denser, you're starting to see a few more particles make an appearance in the plasma there. You can see you're looking down at the aft end of the ship in the top left, and you're seeing essentially the flame build up as we go through re-entry. You've been hearing the call-outs. They're tracking things like temperatures in the nose cone, and those were right where we modeled them to be, which is really cool to see and to see in real time. But we're coming up, we're at about 67 kilometers in altitude. Our last signal with the ship on Flight 3 was at 65, so we should be making it past that point shortly. Obviously, as you guys pointed out, we're in a much better control this time as we re-entered in the right attitude, and our flaps have been steering the way so far.
The sparks that are coming off it is because the heat shield is partly ablated, which means that the heat will actually dissipate. So when it flakes off, that's part of the heat shield going.
Faster or slower than the speed of sound, we'll eventually get to subsonic, which we have some experience with. We did in our suborbital campaign.
Starter rapid shield.
And Starship will eventually get down to its terminal velocity as it's floating down to the water. That's just about 200 miles an hour or so.
Can you imagine what this would look like from the ground? This streaking over top. Just remember the part that they're actually coming in, there is nobody. It is off the coast of Western Australia, and there is not much out there at all. There might be a couple of oil rigs that might get to see something. So in the next few days, this will be very, very interesting as people upload footage of oil rig workers, gas workers out that way in the middle of the ocean. They might see something.
We did on our last flight when that last signal was coming at 65 kilometers. So again, what we're really looking at here is the performance of the heat shield, of the flaps, of the seals in the flaps. There's just a whole bunch of different areas that we're keeping a really close eye on as we re-enter.
Ooh. Okay, and as you can see,
Starship remains on a good entry trajectory.
Flap is the camera is on the flap, hence it moving.
Looking like we're still on a good trajectory. If you're seeing little camera moves, that's the flap moving as it continues to maintain the attitude of the vehicle as it re-enters. And I mean, not just camera views, but we've got sensors inside the ship. We've got those sensors down at the very aft end of the vehicle where we pointed out we had some intentionally missing tiles, where we've got some sensors looking at just how hot it's getting around there. we intentionally put those in essentially the least critical part of the heat shield, where if you had any kind of a breach, it wouldn't be great for reusability, but wouldn't be critical for actual making it through the reentry into the landing. "58 kilometers, we're continuing to descend. Again, right now we are over the Indian Ocean. We're actually getting closer and closer to that expected splashdown point, which is just
Indian Ocean, not Pacific.
off the northwest corner of Australia.
Guess who failed geography?
And if you keep an eye on our speed, the speed is dropping. We're hitting the thicker part of the atmosphere now. The speed's going to start dropping precipitously. We're going to start getting to transonic pretty soon, and then after that we'll get into
This looks like it's been, you know, it's CGI. Part of it. It's not.
So far.
External
Ooh.
temperatures are starting to come down.
Again, this camera view is looking right at one of the forward flaps. And we're strategically putting some cameras around the vehicle to just look at the different areas.
There's pieces coming off. The flap is going to go.
Looks like we
Oh,
got
no.
the flap starting to come apart a little.
Yeah, it does appear that we have a little bit of burn through there. We can see pieces of the vehicle flying off. What a show it has been. It's been like watching Interstellar or something.
This is wild to see this, but the ship is still coming down, which is incredible to see.
How far
Oh no,
will it
it's
go?
going to go. It's burning
Keep
through.
an eye on the altitude in the bottom right-hand corner. We're at 54 kilometers right now.
53 kilometers and 14,000 kilometers per hour.
We've been saying it multiple times.
There you can see inside the forward flap now, which means that this is coming apart. Coming through the Earth's atmosphere at these speeds, there's not much that survives.
And learning
Satellites burn up.
improve this design. The goal was to get as far through this high heat re-entry as possible. Ideally, we'd love to make it all the way down and perform that landing burn and flip maneuver, but we may not get that far today. We will see.
Again, this is a test, and we are gathering as much data as possible, visual data as well, which we can see here. We are getting a lot of debris.
That camera is very, very obscured at the moment.
Sparks and flames from that high heat as ship is making its way back down to Earth.
Ship now at 50 kilometers and closing.
At 12,000 kilometers per hour.
Looks like that camera lens just cracked. It's safe to say ship's getting a little beat up, but that's to be expected on a test flight. We are still learning how to improve the ship for total survival and recovery of the high heat reentry.
I'm honestly impressed that we're still getting this live view. Despite
Yeah, I'm impressed we're getting this live view as well.
Right now.
The fact that we've got it is good news.
Oh, it's gone.
I apologize.
No! Oh no! Oh, it's back. Yes.
It's back.
We are still going.
And the teams here at SpaceX are excited, as you can tell by the cheering behind us. There's still a sizable crowd here at Mission Control Center, Hawthorne.
A splashdown is expected in just about 4 minutes from now.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
We're still moving.
Notice how they haven't changed the camera angle. This is probably the only functioning camera left.
External temperatures are dropping.
Good news.
Okay, good
That means
news.
whatever's
External
left
pressures
might be
are dropping.
able to go.
How much of the ship is left? We can't really tell. We can still see some of that particulate coming off. And unfortunately, we do have a cracked camera lens. But for any photographers out there and videographers, we know that's
painful
sometimes.
Yeah, and you can see that the speed is rapidly slowing down. That's actually really great news for us. We want the vehicle to be slowing down before it splashes down into the ocean. That'll help set us up for that flip maneuver, engines first down into the water.
Exactly. So we have seen this flip maneuver demonstrated on previous high altitude.
Oh,
flight
this is
tests,
insane. We can still see this.
Serial
Oh,
number
and it's
8.
still
More
working.
views, or excuse, I should say, more light coming through the view that we have through that cracked and dirtied lens there. But yeah, so we're hoping that this flip maneuver, that we can pull it off. As soon as we get those views back, if we can get them, if the ship is still around, we will bring it back to you.
Vehicle has passed maximum dynamic pressure.
That is great news. Maximum dynamic pressure being the moment in which the vehicle experiences the greatest amount of aerodynamic pressure. Speed still dropping. We're now at 37 kilometers above the ocean. Just like Flight 3, we are targeting a splashdown in the water in the Indian Ocean.
Let's see if we get the images
We don't
back.
have a live view right now, but because we're still getting data,
There is a lot of.
telemetry,
Just
that
remember,
does
there
tell
is a
us
lot
that
of data
ship
that's
is
still coming through.
doing
It's
okay,
not.
at
It's not
least.
all ended. It is going over 3,000 kilometers now. Oh,
We got that
signal!
live view back.
We're back.
The crowd very
Yes.
excited to see that view, despite not being able to.
Oh,
see
it's still
their
working.
nose.
The fact that
There's
it's
not much of a
there
camera left.
tells us the ship is still alive.
Yes, and
For now.
collecting data, continuing to collect data as we get closer and closer to Earth.
Yes, now 30 kilometers, now 29 above the Indian
Starship is at
Ocean.
30 kilometers altitude, Mach 2.
Ew.
Sounds like the vehicle's traveling, as we just heard, Mach 2, which is, looks like we might, I thought maybe it might clear up. It is a little bit, now at T+1 hour, 3 minutes and 13 seconds into Starship Flight 4.
Still 24 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. The
ship
speed
can
is
hang
now
on.
dropping
It's
too fast.
potentially hanging on by a couple of bolts and threads, but it's still
Oh, I can
going,
see
and that
part
is
of the flap.
excellent news.
That deceleration
It's still
is
moving.
looking incredible. We're about to go under 1,000 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
We're under.
Starship is at 20 kilometers altitude.
Now, keep in mind that even though we can't see anything,
The flap is moving.
data itself is what we really are
Starship is subsonic.
subsonic. They're telling us it's traveling below the speed of sound.
Oh, come on. Flick to a different camera if you've got it.
That movement means the flaps are actuating.
Oh, the flaps are working.
This is a nail biter. But we are, unfortunately, we can't see through the
That is
lens,
one.
but
I can see
we're still
parts of
getting
that flap,
the
and that is one
feed.
destroyed
Starship
flap.
is now, 11
There's not
kilometers
much
over
left.
The ocean. All this data is incredibly important. Even if it breaks up right now.
It's working.
Okay, we can see that flap actuating through the glass.
They're 9 kilometers above the surface. They're still traveling at 500 kilometers per hour.
Starship is passing through 10 kilometers altitude.
Okay, the next milestone will be initiation of the flip maneuver and landing burn. Keep an eye on the bottom right corner of your screen for those.
How can we still see stuff?
They will gimbal
It got
or,
better.
Angle so that the ship flips itself back up vertical and hopefully lands in a vertical position.
And the crowd is very excited to get this view of that flap still
Starship is
maneuvering.
passing through 5 kilometers altitude.
Okay, that light means that the engines are burning. Remember, it's dark.
This is incredible. We're getting very close to splashdown.
2 kilometers.
Fireflies are such a good sign of life right now. We wish we could see more, but we'll take it.
Starship is at
1K,
10 altitude.
300 kilometers an hour.
Landing burn startup for Starship.
All right, great.
It's startup. Flap is out. That's a destroyed flap. It's coming in.
Nominal change.
It's down.
Inboard startup.
It's down?
Starship is in landing burn.
Landing burn shutdown.
No, that last bump at the end there, that was landing.
Commanded.
No, it fell over. No, it fell over. That last bump at the end was it falling over. Sorry.
Wow. I mean, it was a little bit of use your imagination as you were going down with what we could actually see. What we were able to hear. The ship did its landing burn. It sounded
Starship
like we might have got
shutdown.
2 engines. And there's the final call for landing burn shutdown. But we'll go back through all the data. But we did get confirmation that a landing burn took place. Starship made it through re-entry and did its first ever landing burn. From South Texas to the other side of the Earth, Starship is in the water. What a day. What a day, guys. Yeah. That was absolutely
what a day. High fives all around, and you saw in the control room there. Yeah, what a day. And thank you very much, guys, for joining me for this live stream.
We were able to get signal. We started to get some debris on the cameras and
holy
everything.
Shit.
But we were able to see it. So, I mean, what a day. Just recapping, everything started off today. We lifted off from here in Starbase just about an hour ago.
Wow.
It feels like a lifetime.
Wow, that was amazing. That was amazing. Yeah, look.
Back and its own splashdown in the Gulf.
Yeah.
Ship made it to space, kept its attitude, successful re-entry through peak heating. We got to see it under...
The highlight for me was the flap. The flap on the side of that we could see, that was destroyed. There was not much of that left. However, that said...
Really incredible.
They actually landed because that final bump at the end there, I think, thinking about it just split second afterward, it actually fell over.
So loud here. I haven't heard the crowd get that loud probably since liftoff of Flight 1, honestly.
That was incredible. Congratulations to our teammates, to everyone who supported the
that was
Starship
amazing.
program. Thanks
That was
to
amazing.
all of our future customers for your support. And we'd also like to thank the people of Cameron County, Texas, as well as the Coast Guard, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the government of Mexico. And since Starship got a little bit toasty from that extreme heat of reentry, and we've got our very own Starship right here.
Marshmallows, yes.
I've been waiting all morning for this.
What on earth?
Light me up. Yeah. Just like Starship, I like this toasty.
I'm keeping this.
Now, we've got more Starship test flights coming to you soon. Be sure to follow the SpaceX account on X for more updates from today's test flight and future Starship tests. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
So, yes, all right, that's the end of that. Just let me get rid of that. Hang on. Kill that off. Kill that off. Kill the whole thing. All right, thank you very much, guys, for watching this with me. Thank you very much for joining me on my live stream. Apologise for the earlier stuff and swearing. But look, thank you very much. That roasting marshmallows, that was totally relatable, completely and totally and utterly relatable. And what an amazing thing to see and live stream and bring it to you guys, part of the Space Down Under, even though technically it's not the Space Down Under, but there you go. All right, thanks very much, guys, for joining me. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your evening or day to join me for this live stream for what was actually something. You guys were with me when we watched something historic. That was actually historic. All right, guys. Well, look, I'll leave it with you. Leave it here. Look, we'll close, and I'll start the closing down the live stream. So, look, thank you very much for joining me on this live stream. Remember, do all the usual stuff with the YouTube channels. You know, all that sort of stuff. Like, subscribe, send it on to your friends. Hit the notify button. Look at the shop. Look at the Patreon page. Look at potentially sponsoring, so that way I can bring you more of this stuff all over Australia, all over the planet, because they get good word of the Space Down Under there, out there. So just remember, guys, as always, remember to stay caffeinated.